Welcome back, everybody, to the Pursuit of Property podcast. We're here on episode 3 of our season 3 focused on out-of-state investing. And today we're here with Zach Hoereth, real estate investor, now based out of Austin, Texas. And we're going to be talking to him today a little bit about marketing and how to source and find out-of-state deals. So Zach, what's going on, man? It's good to see you.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Of course, man. Well, I know Scott and I finally got the chance to meet you in person. I know we've been connected on social media for a while. We were finally able to meet you out at a meetup. I think it was in Austin as well back in February. And tell us a little bit, at least about your background and kind of what you've been up to the past couple months, because I know you've been going through a little bit of changes business-wise and personal-wise. So give us the rundown.
Sure. So, like I said, I appreciate you guys having me on. It's been fun to follow you guys from afar and actually, be invited. So I feel special. I must be doing something. I don't know if it's right though. But no, I born and raised in Indianapolis, and for the last probably 4 years and some change, have been in Indy doing single family, small multifamily. And this past year, as I've networked more, obviously we met back in February, getting to know more people just across the country, you really start to understand how small the country is, right? And the ability to be able to go out and invest out of state. Because for me, I was lucky enough that I was in the Midwest and that was my backyard. So that was all I knew. But as I've, gotten a little bit more curious and like I said, met more people, my interest has peaked in investing out of state. So I kind of took a leap of faith, and I kind of share on my social media, I was honestly nervous about coming down to Austin and staying with a buddy who's doing some multifamily investing and some other projects while still trying to run an operation in Indianapolis, still trying to broker, still trying to find deals. And to be honest with you, it has been probably one of the best experiences I've gone through, just from a business growth standpoint, and also from an awareness kind of side of things too, of, okay, you don't physically have to be there to have stuff going on to make shit happen, right?
Yeah.
So, we can kind of dig into some of that, but yeah, that's kind of my thing. I've been down here for the last month and some change, and working on some multifamily deals here. We're doing some construction, believe it or not, we're building plane hangars. So, a little bit outside of my wheelhouse, but again, if the opportunity makes sense, it's fun, it's exciting. So I'll definitely entertain it.
Very cool. Going back a little bit, you've been in real estate how long?
So I want to say, I think in total, probably 5 years. I started, when I was in Florida. I was going to school at a small school called Florida Gulf Coast University down in the Fort Myers, Naples area. And, I was working for a lease to own company. So I was getting paid commissions on the deposit that was being put down. So I wasn't a real estate agent. And I realized, okay, hey, maybe I can sell $1 million houses on the beach. That didn't really go too well. And ended up doing leasing to, fraternity guys and sorority chicks. So that was kind of how I got into it, and realized dang, these guys who own these properties are making a lot of money, and I don't have $200,000 or $300,000 to buy one of these things. I'm 19 years old. And so I'm like, man, how do I get back to maybe a cheaper area where I can actually buy and own these properties? And that's why I made the trip back to Indianapolis, where I'm from, to kind of pursue that.
How long have you been working in Indianapolis, buying property and brokering out there?
So probably 4 years and some change, almost 5, I guess. So relatively 5-ish years, 6 years in real estate in general. I would say probably 2 of those, I didn't really know what was going on.
Okay. Yeah. And let's talk a little bit. You mentioned you wouldn't mind talking a little bit more about this, but since being out in Austin for the past month and a half or month that you were saying, how has your operation changed to managing and sourcing deals and with what you still have got going on out in the Indy area?
Sure. Well, you guys know this through owning properties, and I'm sure some of your listeners do too. Just it goes to show how important your management company is, right? From a rental ownership standpoint, I think the self-management game is pretty tough if you're, not somewhat close. I know a lot of people will start out and think, hey, I'm going to save myself 8 or 10%. and that kind of comes back to bite them a little bit. But I've been really lucky to find some management partners that do a really nice job for us, both on the single families that we have and the apartments. And on the flip side of that, the brokerage sourcing deals, as you guys kind of know, probably by following me on social media, like I tell everybody what the heck I have going on, right? Hey, I'm in real estate. Like if you follow me for a week, you're like, oh my gosh, this dude's kind of annoying talking about real estate, right? And so believe it or not, like that's kind of how some of the deals will come to me now is, hey man, I know you're a buyer. Hey man, I know you have some money or you can raise private money. Can we look at this deal together? Can we, right? Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like why you guys do this podcast for some shape, right, for some reason, right? Is to try to get your name out there, to try to share what you're doing, what other people are doing, so that you become that person within your sphere of influence that is the real estate investor, that is the real estate broker, right? And by establishing that, that's how I've been able to really leverage my sphere of influence and the contacts both in Indy or down here, even in Florida, to continue to make deals happen and source deals without physically being there, right? COVID definitely changed like the environment as far as, okay, hey, you don't have to, walk down the street, go print the contract, go sign it with the person. Hey, I'm going to send you an e-signature. Hey, we're going to send you a wire. Hey, we're going to do a remote closing. And that has saved so much time for me in my business.
Gotcha. In ballpark, what's the percentage of deals that you're getting that you think is coming by referral or from your SOI?
Probably like 80%.
Wow.
No way. Really?
Oh yeah.
It's funny because we were talking about that. I mean, most of my stuff's coming from referral at this point. Mm-hmm. I think after you hit a certain number of years in the business, you've done enough of that, not shameless self-promotion, but extremely intentional self-promotion. I noticed a big swing from lead generating and finding deals that way to having Sphere bring them to me.
Yeah, because you establish confidence in yourself and with the people in your network, right? Like when you first start out, whether it's, you're investing in your city or you're investing out of state and you're talking to people about this, they kind of look at you like you have three heads, right? And it's like, yeah, dude, crazy real estate guy, whatever. But then you start sharing, and not to like be pretentious, but you start sharing some of the amount of money that you're making, right? And again, not to be like mean about it or like showy, but there is a ton of money to be made in real estate. And I think when people start, broadening their perspective on it, and they're like, oh man, like what's going on with this dumpy house or this dumpy apartment building or whatever, like, I need to call Kate, I need to call Scott. Like that's how you establish yourself, right?
Now that you're out of the area, have you noticed any difference in your Sphere's trust in your ability to close, or have you still seen the same?
I think since day one, they know like I'm a pretty mellow guy. Like I love to joke around. I'm a pretty sarcastic person. But when it comes time to like get down and get shit going, like they know I'm there to get it done, just as soon, if not sooner than they are. And I think they trust too, like, you guys can relate to this because you're both agents or brokers. I don't know if the term is interchangeable in your guys' state, but when I started, I didn't sell a house before I bought my own deal. I bought my own deal and then I started selling homes. I was in the class to like get my license when I started, doing this. And so we closed first, and the real estate agent, he's like, oh man, come hang your license, one of the brokerage, Keller Williams or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so what I started doing was I started talking about, we just bought this rental property. Here's what it's doing. At the time, it's one single family home that, I look at it now, it's not very exciting, but as a 19, 20-year-old kid, I was like, dude, this is sick, right? And I'm telling everybody. And then they're like, oh, well, I want to buy some rentals, right? Oh, well, I have a real estate license. I can get compensated for helping these people, right? So as I bought more rentals, I talked about it, I shared about, what my experience was. That drew attention to me, right? As someone that could help you find rental properties. Because I didn't want to go out and sell, homes to my parents' friends or like, to the like older people I went to high school with. Like I'd rather put my head in the wall. So by doing that, like I said, you kind of create your own sphere of influence, and you can shift as far as like, okay, hey, I really want to work with more investors than, Joe and Susie that want to go buy a 3-2 in the suburbs. Nothing wrong with that. There's a need for it. I just didn't want to do it. Because I'm like, you see like what I'm wearing, like, dude, I'm not going to wear a suit and tie to a show. It's all right. I'm just not. like it's what's about up here, right? That I'm going to be able to help you with, and not so much like, well, I have, so.
And with the remaining 20%, I mean, are you doing any of the nitty gritty stuff? Are you calling? Are you mailing? Any of the kind of down to the basic stuff that people might start out with, driving for dollars, stuff like that? Are you doing any of that for the remaining 20%?
There's some cold calling here and there. I'm not hitting the phones every day. It's more or less from like previous relationships that I've established or previous deals that I've done where people said, hey, like, especially with these mom and pops and smaller tertiary markets, they're like, hey, we saw you bought this deal, or hey, so-and-so had mentioned you bought this, would you take a look at ours? I've done some marketing. I'm continuing to do some marketing a little bit. I'm not doing hundreds of thousands of mailers or anything like that, but we do have a mailing campaign that we have leveraged in the past or continue to leverage. Then we have a call center that fields those calls. And then based on, who we think is serious or not, we'll pick up a couple of wholesales, we'll pick up a couple of maybe rentals, and then we do some wholesaling through that route. But I would say of that 20%, you're probably looking at more so mailers than cold calls. A lot of people's instinct is, hey, I want to go get, 50 virtual assistants in the Philippines that are going to cold call for me. Well, yeah, dude, you and everybody else, right? Yeah. Like that seems to be the model. And like for the markets I'm in, you guys can probably relate in South Bend with these mom and pops. Like, again, if someone calls me and I can't understand them, or these older people can't understand them, they're going to be like, yeah, no, thanks, see ya, right? Whereas with a mailer, they take an action to reach out, right? So like as Cardone says, he's like, oh, everybody's a lead. So if they've taken the action to pick up the mailer and actually call, even if they're like, what the hell is this? Dude, there's still some interest there, right? And then based on that conversation that I listened to from the intake specialist, I can determine, hey, is this a qualified lead that I want to try to pursue?
And for somebody who, as you talked a little bit about, it takes a little bit to build up that sphere and kind of get your image out there to get to the point where 80% of your deals are coming from your SOI. For somebody who has not had, their first deal or first out-of-state deal, what would you recommend would be the best avenue for them to get started, to get rolling in order to find that first piece of property out of state?
Well, I would say like educate yourself before you educate others, right? Like all these freaking people are like, I just bought my first rental and they're making more TikToks than they are money, right? It's like, dude, what the hell is going on here, right? I see that so much. Like everybody wants to start a whole social media campaign on like they've done one deal. And like when I started, I was living in my parents' house and I was just trying to hyper educate. So my answer to your question would just be like hyper education and networking are going to allow you to really sharpen your skills, sharpen your, tool set, if you will, of your knowledge of investing. Go visit the market that you want to invest in out of state. Like, I'm sorry, you can look on Google Images all day, but like buy the fucking $600 plane ticket and go out there, right? Because by going out there, you're going to be establishing relationships. Meet with brokers, meet with your property manager. Let them know like you're a real person and that you care, as opposed to, scrolling Zillow and trying to figure out, okay, hey, like, I'm going to call this person up and make an offer. You need to go, you need to see it. Like what we're dealing with in real estate is tangible items, right? You can see it, you can touch it, you feel it. Go to that market and figure out, okay, hey, is this something that even aligns with what I want to do? And then you're going to be able to make the decision of, here's the people I want to work with. Here's the kind of deals I want to be buying, right? And that's exactly what you guys did in South Bend. It's worked out very well for you because when you come back and you're sharing those experiences with people you're maybe raising money from, right? Or partners, it's going to give you so much more credibility to be able to speak on behalf of that as opposed to just a concept, right?
Yeah. No, we noticed a big change when we went out to the properties. And then when we came back, even posting about it when we were out there, we had huge outreach from people that we had no expectation of ever working with. Yep. So that's an interesting comment that you made. Now that you're over in Austin, you're running an entire portfolio, plus you're doing acquisitions, plus you're brokering out of Indiana. How are you managing all of those different pieces from afar? Are you like on Zoom meetings like this? Are you strictly email? Are you a phone call or FaceTime? What do you do?
Like the management of the assets is, it's pretty low time invested, I would say, like, especially with, we have a portfolio of Section 8 single family homes. Like I get some maintenance requests and I just approve them. Like that's the extent. And then every 15th of the month, I just look and see how much money we had to come in. Right. On some, with that portfolio, we're going through a refinance. So yeah, there's some more conference calls that are happening and back and forth with email and things of that nature. But to tell you the truth, there is no real difference. I mean, like I said, COVID changed all of this, right? So whether I'm in Indy 15 minutes away from one of the team members or the property, I'm still probably going to be on a call similar to this, right? Mm-hmm. Or email and texting, whatever. So no, there hasn't been a lot of like change on that, but to kind of, I guess, sequence out the answer there, the management of the assets hasn't changed. It's more or less, hey, reviewing statements, making sure everything's running smoothly. On the acquisitions and like brokerage, wholesaling side of things, it's a little bit different. I mean, there's some people I've had to say, hey, can I pay you X to maybe go take pictures or throw a lockbox on, right? Mm-hmm. But if anything, that has made me more respective of time, because if I'm there, I'm like, oh, I'll just jump in the car and go do it. Well, is my return on time to go do that action, is that really the highest and best use of it? And the answer is no, right? Mm-hmm. There's people out there that, hey, look, can I pay you to go grab, this or keys or whatever? Mm-hmm. And maybe you're still wanting to learn or don't understand. And that's where there's an opportunity to utilize those folks.
Gotcha.
And how many, a little bit off topic, but I'm curious, I don't remember ever asking, or you telling us, how many doors are you up to, multifamily, single family, between, both in the Indy market, if you do have anything in Texas, and kind of anything and everything in between?
Sure. So I've 41 in Indy, and that's comprised of 6 single family homes, a triplex, a fourplex, an 8-unit, a 19-unit. Yeah. And I guess a piece of land that I'm intending to build something on.
Sweet.
Down here, I have, with some partners, we're working on an 18-unit condo conversion, and then we're building 3 plane acres.
And is everything in Indy by yourself? Are you with a partner, family? What's kind of the story out there?
Yeah, 50-50 ownership on, I think, every one of those properties, with just one other partner usually.
Sweet.
Or I have private debt on it, so where I'll refinance out and mm-hmm. I own it, solely. So
yeah.
I don't own a home per se. Like, I don't live in a home there, just because I don't want the maintenance. And I think the Midwest, is always going to be a good cash flowing market. But dude, I hate the wintertime there. So that's part of the reason I'm down here. It's part of the reason I'm kind of, you heard of the Bermuda Triangle. I'm trying to create like the Hoereth Triangle, like Indiana, Texas, Florida. Hopefully don't disappear in there.
Wow. And where are you? Well, you're now in Texas.
Yeah.
Obviously, your experience has mostly been over in the Indy area in Indiana. Yeah. And then you have some connections you were talking about in Florida from when you went to college. Are you looking to primarily stay in those 3 states? Are you looking to market elsewhere, or just those 3? Okay.
I'm just like, I haven't even really started my marketing in Florida just yet, because I want to wrap these projects up here. We're still doing marketing in Indiana, but no, I think that, like, I don't run a big shop. Like, I don't have, 15 people that are underneath me. And quite frankly, like, the more I look at it, I don't want that, right? I don't want a million cold callers. I don't like to be bothered, right? As dumb as that sounds, but like, I want to buy incredible assets that are going to cash flow forever. And so by establishing like your criteria up front, like, hey, if you buy, this kind of asset or these many kinds of this asset every year, how is that going to help build your wealth? and the one thing, like, I've realized in breaking that criteria down is that the brokerage game for me is not that. It's not the route to go build wealth, right? I don't know how you guys feel about that.
We're the same way.
It is an incredible way to earn income, an incredible way, but it's a constant chase, right? Like, okay, hey, I just closed this deal and I made, 15 grand, 30 grand, whatever. I got to go do it again. And then you kind of become like this pseudo servant to a client. And so that's why, like, now in Indy and even in Florida too, like, I'm not working with a client if they don't respect my time, right? And I'm not getting in the car to do showings. I'm not doing open houses. I particularly focus on clients that are other investors like me. They're like, hey, dude, we want to bounce this around. You kind of spitball it around on the opportunity itself. And if it makes sense, hey, let's write an offer, right? Or, hey, do you have any wholesale deals that are coming up? I'd love to buy, right? Gotcha. Because they know that I'm not going to go chase my tail for 3% on, even something that's a couple $100,000. It's going to require hours and hours and hours of my time that it's like, oh man, I made $12,000. Yeah, dude, but you also had to go out there and go to the title company. And like, dude, oh God, no, I don't want to do it.
So what are you focusing most of your time on now? Are you mostly focused on the Texas projects, or are you focused a lot on the Indianapolis management projects, or what are you working on?
There's a couple of properties I'm exiting right now. So I'm exiting an 8-unit. I'm exiting a triplex. We're putting some long-term debt on a package of single-family homes we have. And really, I'm looking for larger assets, because both here in Indiana and Texas, because those larger assets, they take the same amount of time as like these single-family flips. And I wish I would have known that going in, but you kind of learn by doing. And so, like the kid I'm staying with, he's done fewer deals than me, but they've been larger, right? And he's made way more money, right? And it's so interesting to get around someone like that. And some of the other people that I've met down here in Texas is that it's not always about the number of deals you're doing; it's about the size and the quality, right? So I'm migrating more towards like the wealth creation through some of these larger deals. When I say larger, I don't want to go buy a 500-unit apartment building that have to syndicate, have 10 million people on. I want to go buy these 20 units, these 30 units, these 50 units where, hey, it's me and a couple buddies that I can trust from a JV partnership standpoint. That, hey, look, whether we're raising private money or we have our own money that we can kind of throw into that. That's the kind of structures that I'm after now, because those kinds of deals and assets, you can still have a management company in place and not have to run yourself, into the ground as far as like, oh, I'm going to self-manage this. And like, so that's where I'm migrating. I'm still doing some brokerage. I'm still doing some wholesaling and some like flip deals, but really more so focused on, hey, how can I acquire apartment buildings? How can I acquire storage facilities? If it's like down here, there's a big demand for plane hangars. So there's no space. Okay, we'll find the problem and then create the solution.
Gotcha.
That's kind of the direction I'm heading in. Like, more or less, to answer that question, I'm trying to build a lifestyle around what I want and where I want to be. So when it's 10 degrees in Indy, I don't want to be there, right? I don't want to be chasing my tail for $4,000 commissions. Okay, so how can I build my life around when it's that temperature in that state? How can I be in Texas? How can I be in Florida? Right, just kind of bounce around.
In migrating towards those bigger deals, the 20, 30, 40, 50, what's going to be your main strategy? I'm curious, because the people who currently own those, obviously the number of 20, 30, 40, 50 units is fewer than the number of single family homes, right? That there's fewer owners, fewer sellers, even from that. What's going to be your main strategy to find those people and pick up those deals and just do more business that way on the bigger stuff?
I'm not looking in like downtown Austin for a 20 unit, right?
Yeah.
You're going to have someone who's a little more sophisticated. We kind of lucked out with this deal that we're doing down here as far as how we came across that through a prior relationship. But I like these markets that are a little bit outside of your major metros, right? You go into a Louisville, everybody knows where Louisville is. Everybody knows where Indianapolis is. And that's where, for a lot of people like in your position that are coming from California, that are coming from New York, like those people are overpaying for those properties, because you guys see, a piece of dog shit in your market. You're like, oh, it's $400,000. Well, that same thing in our market is $4,000, right? And you got people that are maybe coming in and saying, oh man, in our market it's $400,000. We can pay $40,000 for it, right? And it's like, that doesn't make sense, right? So I like to go into these markets where, it doesn't have a ton of spotlight, right? But there's still some growth. There's still some demand, right? And that's where I think you're going to continue to see as baby boomers, get older and don't want to be in the business of running or operating real estate. They're going to be giving these things away, right? And it's happening everywhere, right? So, as far as strategy, it's not like I'm not calling up every lead on CoStar, because some of these properties aren't even on CoStar, right? So it's figuring out, hey, where is everybody else going? How can I go the opposite way, right? And that goes for larger commercial assets, that goes for single family homes, because like, as you guys know, I'm sure South Bend started to heat up a little bit, right? Well, what's that next town? What's that next city to where you can still have steady management, where you can have a good management play and you can pick up properties for freaking 50% off, right? You have people that just give them away essentially. And you're like, dude, this is great because they're going to cash flow so heavy. And then all of a sudden you need fewer of those properties to kind of meet your cash flow criteria, if you will.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And you talked a little bit about like lifestyle goals and stuff like that. Is that primarily what your goals are based on? Do you have a quantity goal of units or volume or anything like that? Or is it essentially just like you were saying, the freedom to be able to do what you want, when you want, with who you want?
Yeah. I mean, like beforehand, I'm like, oh, dude, I want X amount of units. And, and like after I started meeting more of these people getting into the business, everybody's like, I want 1,000 units. It's like, yeah, dude, but you're still not making any money, right? And so like my whole thing is like, where do you want to be? Okay, I want to have some presence in Indiana because that's where the family is. It's where kind of home base is. I definitely want to be in Texas because there's a ton of growth. I think, there's just it's a fun market. I mean, you guys know this from being down here. Like, chicks are hot. But like Florida's a great, these are growing locations where like there's mass migration happening. And I want to be a part of that action. So like I want to have enough interest in property where I can get, a nice little plane and I can hop around and be on my own schedule, right? Like I don't want to necessarily have to answer to anybody until like, okay, well, I'll be out to this showing in, 20 minutes. Like, dude, I'd rather like, no thanks. So that is my goal. And before, like part of my reason for leaving Indy was, okay, hey, I established that I can do well there from the brokerage side of things, from, picking up properties and things like that. And it's either I can stay there and become, in my opinion, stagnant of, okay, hey man, well, you go make a couple $100,000 last year. Okay, well, go make a couple hundred more thousand, couple hundred more grand the next year. And then, oh, hey man, maybe I can make, $1.2 million next year. And it becomes this constant chase of like, well, maybe I'll make a little bit more. And I know this area, I know it so well, like, you just become stagnant. Like I want to make sure that, hey, look, I'm challenging myself as an investor. And that's why I'm down here building plane hangars. I've never done that before. Can I stay in Indy and pick off $30,000 single family homes for the rest of my life? Absolutely. So if all this shit like goes to hell, I can go back there and still do that and create wealth. But I just like, I'm thinking, okay, if I'm going to challenge myself, I want to challenge it on something cool, something that I can enjoy doing it with people I like being around. So I mean, hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. So, I mean, dude, with all that being said, you've got some projects going on there in Austin. You basically the train's still rolling. It's still moving along. Yep. What's the big thing that's next? What's next for Zach?
I think I'll end up, so I have a place in Indy right now. See, I don't have my 3 like barriers down just yet. Right. So I'm kind of getting the feel for down here. I already know Florida a little bit more because I live there, but the next play is, get the 2 projects we have going on down here in Texas closer to closing, closer to having our ducks in a row there, and then get down to Florida, establish my, kind of, I call like HQs, like a headquarter in each state. And if that's a cheap, like shitty apartment, so be it, let's do it. I want to have my bed, my desk, all my stuff in 3 different locations so that I can bounce around as needed. Right. So that's kind of going to be the next play is getting down to Florida and establishing that, HQ, if you will. And then hopefully by the time that's been established, a few months go by, our condo conversion project will be done here. I'm going to buy a condo for my 3rd kind of HQ in Austin. It's, a couple minutes from downtown. And I think that's going to be like pretty pivotal for, kind of bumping around each state and doing what I want to do. So like I said, I don't have this goal to go create a company with 40 employees, 50 employees and have, it's kind of like the digital nomad, concept, if you will.
Gotcha.
So
well, thanks for coming on, bro. It's really awesome to always catch up and to hear the good things going on for you.
You guys come down here. I think y'all would. I mean, I know you've been down here before, but
only
you guys
for
were doing
a short period of time.
75 bars and all that stuff. So we'll get you down on Rainy Street or something.
All right. Well, yeah, we'll have to fly out pretty soon here. And obviously we always were intending to meet you out in Indy and see that area. But if you're in Austin doing big things, we might as well go to Austin.
Dude,
come on. We'll get you an Austin map. You can throw that up behind you guys too.
That's true. That's true. And I know we always joke around about doing some business together, but I think it's actually freaking time to get something rolling.
Honestly, so I think that there is a good runway for that, and as long as it's not in California, I think we can make it work.
I
right,
think
in
we're all
agreement.
we're all on the same page on that one, man.
All right, man. Well, hey, good to catch up. Thanks for joining us on season 3.
Appreciate
And what's your Facebook or Instagram for people to follow you on if they're interested in learning more?
Just Zach.Hoereth. I'm on
Zach.Hoereth.
Instagram. I deleted Facebook, I deleted Twitter. Like, if you can find me on Instagram, you can find me anywhere.
All
Sweet.
right.
Well, thanks again, man. We appreciate your time, and we'll talk and catch up again soon.
Appreciate it, guys. I'll see you later.